around all day at the expense of my vertebrae.
Well, that is probably really the truth. So happy Mother's Day. Let me be the first to welcome you this morning, especially if you're a mom. But we want to take a few minutes here just to sing to God and about God. And so would you guys stand up with us as we sing out about his goodness over us? This is the day that you have made. Whatever comes, I won't complain, for all my hope is in your name, and now your joy awaits my praise. Give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love isn't failing, Lord, I am grateful. When I was down, you brought me out. You set my feet on higher ground. So here I stand, you are my God. Your faithfulness, my solid rock. I give thanks for all you have done. I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love isn't failing, Lord, I am grateful. I give thanks for all you have done. I won't forget all the battles you have won. Your love isn't failing, Lord, I am grateful. And as we lift our hands, the heavens open, heavens open. So let our lives declare the love our God has spoken over us. And as we lift our hands, the heavens open, heavens open. So let our lives declare the love our God has spoken over us. His love is always over us. It always has been, it always will be. So let's give him thanks. Let's sing this out. I give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love isn't failing, Lord, I am grateful. I give thanks for all you have done. I won't forget all the battles you have won. Your love isn't failing, Lord, I am grateful.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born in the vapor of your breath. The planets form. If the stars are made to worship, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've made. Every burning star, signal fire of praise. If creation sings your praises, so will I. God of your promise, don't speak in vain, a syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your face. If creation still obeys you, so will I. So will I. Oh, so will I. The stars are made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sun of all our praise is still falls shine, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. Chase down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. You lost your life, so I can find it here. If you left the grave behind you, so will I can see your heart and everything's done. Every No one measure could amount to your desire. You're the one who never leaves the one behind. You're the one who never leaves the one behind. You're the one who never leaves the one behind. Oh Jesus, you're the one who never leaves the one behind. Even when we run away, you're the one who never leaves the one behind. Oh, there's no shame or judgment in you. You're the one who never leaves the one behind. Oh, you leave the 99 every time. You're the one who never leaves the one behind. Oh, Jesus, you're the one who never leaves the one behind.
It's awesome. We wanted to start this morning by singing about being grateful for God being that person who comes after us, who surrenders everything for us. And I think today, one of the greatest examples we have of God's love is that of a mother, of someone who's willing to give up everything for her kids. So that's why we're celebrating today, and we're grateful to celebrate our moms. The moms in the room. Let's give a shout out for the moms in the room today. Welcome to Kensington. My name is Michael Bouchard. I'm the Student Ministries Director here at this campus, so over middle school and high school programs. And we're so glad that you're here today. And we hope that Kensington is or becomes a place that you call home, because we are all welcome here. And if you're new here, we just want you to know that on your way out later today, in the lobby, there's a place called The Hub. Stop by there. We want to get to know you, hear a little bit about your story, and let you hear some of ours. So before you have a seat, turn to the person next to you and tell them, what's one thing you love about your mama?
Here's to you, you were pink or blue, and everything I wanted. Here's to you, never sleeping through midnight till the morning. Had to crawl before you walked, before you ran, before I knew it. You were trying to free your fingers from my head, 'cause you could do it on your own now. Somehow, slow down, won't you stay here a minute more? I know you wanna walk through the door, but it's all too fast. Let's make it last a little while. I pointed to the sky, and now you wanna fly. I am your biggest fan. I hope you know I am. But do you think you can somehow slow down? but slow down. Won't you stay here a minute more? I know you wanna walk through the door, but it's all too fast. Let's make it last a little while. I pointed to the sky, and now you wanna fly. I am your biggest fan. I hope you know I am. But do you think you can somehow slow down? Please don't roll your eyes at me. I know I'm embarrassing, but someday you will understand. You'll hold a little hand, ask them if they can. Cause it's all too fast. I am your biggest fan. I hope you know I am. But do you think you can somehow slow down? Slow down.
I'm a perfectionist, and so that's hard with kids.
There's definitely days when I have my doubts about my abilities.
Struggle with my temper.
I struggle with like how I react with situations.
I wish I knew how to, I guess, just calm myself before speaking to them.
I wish I was better at taking time to sit down and just listen more to my child.
I wish I was more confident in being a mom.
I'm not the most patient person in the world.
Patience. Patience is far and away probably the biggest struggle.
I just want them to know just how much I love them.
My mom is totally awesome. She's fun to snuggle with. Pretty, funny. She does cook a lot of food for me. She's just unique. That's why I love her so much. We go on dates together. Like, we go shopping. She loves me a lot. I have a lot of favorite things about my mom. We like to watch movies together and color and stuff.
We go to church together, we volunteer together.
She is like my heart, I guess you could say, because she's that close to me.
My favorite thing is to jump on a trampoline with my mom. That's my most favorite thing, to go up high. We like get ice cream or something and like you go to the nail salon and have fun. My mommy's my hero. She's pretty and beautiful.
She is my hero.
She just will care about me and just always love me forever. She's the best.
That's so awesome.
I always seem to focus mostly on the negative, and I guess I can walk out here and say that I'm doing something great and that my child is viewing me in totally different lenses as I view myself. So that's inspiring.
This is my calling. This is my job. This is what I love to do, and I will do it better and with love each and every day because those kids count on me and they love me for what I'm doing.
Yeah, moms, you are doing a great job. And I'd love to celebrate Mother's Day by having all the moms stand. That includes grandmothers. Stand up. Let's give them a hand. Way to go, moms. We love you. We thank you. Yeah, you better be cheering for them. You can be seated. I know you don't want to stand. No, you know what? Stand up the whole message. I'm kidding. I'll be standing. And here's the thing. If one of those ladies is connected to your family, it isn't just Mother's Day today, right, ladies? It's all year round, right? It isn't just one day. But, I mean, as you watch that, you think about, isn't it interesting how hard moms are on themselves? And then you interview their kids, and it's like, oh, I'm not as bad as I thought. Not doing as bad as a job I thought. And I do think, I love Mother's Day. I'm celebrating my wife, and my mom has passed years ago, and she was a single mom. But I know this about Mother's Day. It's a wonderful day for many people wake up and they're excited it's Mother's Day. There's other people wake up and it's a really hard day. So just know in this room right now are people that are excited it's Mother's Day and feeling great about it. It's going to be a wonderful day. And there's also people that are struggling. Some of you lost your mom this year or recently. I remember the first few years after my mom passed, Mother's Day was hard. I remembered her, but it was hard. And my mom was an alcoholic, so it was really tough to remember some of those days. Some of you want to be a mom, and you're trying to get pregnant, and you can't. That's a struggle. There's some really struggling with that today. I mean, there's so many different categories. Ann and I just spoke last weekend in Minneapolis at a blended family conference that was streamed out to 130-some churches around the country. And just being in that, it was all blended families there. Man, that's a whole nother ballgame. You've got moms with bio children and stepchildren. You've got stepmoms with bio and step. It's a whole. So some of you are in that whole thing. Some of you just have a bad relationship with your mom. It's not been good or ever been good or recently been good. So I know that's in the room. We're going to celebrate moms today. I'm going to take you to a passage of Scripture that I think is a beautiful story about a mom, but I just know that there's joy and there's pain in the room. And I want to pray. I just want to pray that God will meet you and I right where we are. Let's pray. Father God, thank you for moms. Thank you for a day to stop and reflect and remember and celebrate. And yet, Lord, I know it's hard for a lot of us. And so, Lord, I pray for your presence. I pray for your Spirit, your Holy Spirit to speak to us and minister to us right where we are. Lord, only you really know what's going on in the hearts of each one of us. And there's no way I can know, but you know. And so, God, you speak. And you minister. And you touch the places of our life that we need to be reminded today that you are indeed with us. So, Lord, we give you today and we ask you to meet us right here. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. You know, what's interesting is as you think about Mother's Day, and some of you know last week as we had our Kaleo kids, I mentioned like 10 days ago, I was with 3 of my grandkids in Denver for 4 days, only 4 days. And I had a 4-year-old girl, a 2-year-old boy, and a 1-year-old adopted foster boy. And oh my goodness, we were so exhausted after 4 days. That's why God gives you kids when you're in 20s and 30s and 40s, because we got on a plane after 4 days. I mean, literally chasing them around for 4 days, poop everywhere at all times, pee everywhere. When we finally got them down at sleep at night, right? Toys all over the house, and you got to get them all back. That's another hour, right? Then you flop down on the couch to watch TV, and you fall asleep, and then you go to bed, and thinking you're going to actually sleep through the night, and then you hear a little pitter-patter come down the hall. I remember the second night I was there, I felt this presence of somebody beside the bed, and I look over, and it's a little Porter. He's 2 years old, and he forgot Mommy and Daddy were gone, so when he saw me, he was like, like that. He ran right over to Ann and jumped in her lap. So, but we were exhausted. We got on the plane. I said this last week. We got on the plane. Literally, Ann turned to me and said, so how you doing? We haven't talked in 4 days. And we hadn't. God bless you, moms of little kids. I don't know how you do it. But I was going around the internet this week looking at what kids say about moms. This is precious. These are real kids, like 5 or 6 years old up to like 9 or 10 years old, and they asked him these questions. First one was, why did God make mothers? Number one answer was, she's the only one who knows where the Scotch tape is. Number two was, he made mothers mostly to clean the house. Ooh, that's not true, is it, moms? No, that's not what moms are for. He said, the second one was, what kind of little girl was your mom? Listen to this. I don't know because I wasn't there, but my guess would be she was pretty bossy. The other one said, they said she used to be nice. How about this? What did mom need to know about dad before she married him? Number one answer, she had to know his background, like, is he a crook? Does he get drunk on beer? Does he make at least $800 a year? Did he say no to drugs and yes to chores? That's an answer. How about this one? Why did your mom marry your dad? My grandma says that mom didn't have her thinking cap on. That is fresh, isn't it? How about this one? Here's the last one. What does your mom do in her spare time? This is a great answer. Mothers don't do spare time. Isn't that true? That is so true. I can remember, we have 3 sons. They're all married now. And like I said, we have 4 grandkids. Now, you've heard about Cody's son, Bryce, who's just 4 months old. Cody's the other pastor here with me. So, when we brought our first son, CJ is his name, lives down in Detroit with Robin, his wife. When we brought him home from the hospital, first time dad, 33 years ago in January. I can remember, parents, you remember this? Looking over his crib. And by the way, all 3 of our sons were in neonatal intensive care. None of them we got to hold when they were born. They were rushed to neonatal, and one of them was in there a couple weeks. But so it was all sort of intensive things, and then you finally get him home. You're so excited. I remember looking over his crib. Parents, you relate to this? And just going, where's the instruction manual for this? Right? I had no idea. Never had a dad in my home growing up, only a mom, and now I'm a dad, and I remember looking up at the ceiling like, help. And by the way, I think some of you know this, but if you don't know this, let me remind you. There is an instruction manual for how to raise a child well. You know what it's called? The Bible. Now, I never knew that growing up. I went to a church where, I never understood the Bible. It never made sense. The guy preaching never made sense. I just always thought the Bible was so deep and profound, but wasn't practical. And I now know the Bible's the most practical book you'll ever read. And you talk about parenting wisdom, it's all through the Bible. And so one of the things that you struggle with as a parent that we had to do is at some point you realize this isn't my child. Children are a gift from the Lord. It's His. And at some point, every parent has to make a decision. Am I going to own this and control this, or am I going to at some point surrender my child to God? And I'm going to do the best I can as a mom and dad and as a mentor that young boy, that young woman as they grow up to be a man and woman. But am I willing to entrust them to one who loves them more than me, God? And so what we're going to look at today is an interesting story. I don't think in 30 years I've ever taught the story of Hannah. Hannah is an amazing woman in the Old Testament. You talk about a mom and her journey. This is an unbelievable story. Hannah was a woman that, well, I'll read you. It's found in this book called 1 Samuel, which some of you know later was written by somebody related to Hannah. You'll hear the story later. But 1 Samuel is just history of the story of God's people, the nation of Israel, throughout their journey from the Garden of Eden all the way up to Jesus. And so it's really interesting. When you start this story in 1 Samuel chapter 1, we get introduced to Hannah. It says, there was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zephite from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham. Now, I got to tell you, you see the ... I put that in there because the rest of the verse is like 18 names I can't pronounce, okay? And neither can you. And you're like, why is all this stuff in the Bible? It's actually pretty cool as you look at the lineage. But it basically jumps to this. It says, he had 2 wives. This is Elkanah, the husband. One was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Now, little backstory. What you discover often in the Old Testament is men had 2 wives or 3 wives. It was polygamy then. Why? Because God endorsed this? No, God did not endorse this. It was the culture. And here's why this happened. And again, we're not saying God wanted this, but this was their culture. Women in that time, and for a long time this was true, were nothing but property. I don't know if you understand this, but they were property to be used any way men wanted them to. And in that culture, a wife, you married a woman not based on romance. Romance was not entered into the marriage picture till centuries later. I don't know if you know that. It's sort of a new invention that you marry for romance. And then we get married now and we say, I don't love her anymore. That was never the purpose of marriage. Marriage back then was productivity. It was to have children. It was to leave a legacy. It was actually to be productive, to have money. Children gave you wealth. Children gave you workers. And so you married based on that. There was no Hebrew bachelorette back in the day or bachelor show like, I'm going to pick my wife based on what looks good and what I want. There was none of that. It was based on, I need children. I need a woman that can bring me children. So Elkanah is married to Hannah. That's his love. That's his first wife, but she can't get pregnant. She's infertile. So what's he do? He gets another woman, Peninnah, and he says, I need a woman that can bring me children. So he has two wives, all right? And by the way, this is a whole nother sermon, and I don't have time to get into it. But that is how women were viewed in the Old Testament because of the culture, all right? The Old Testament is written honestly and doesn't hide stuff that's sort of ugly to look at. But you got to understand something. That all changed. The view of women, do you know when it all changed? It's a whole nother day. And I think 2 years ago on Mother's Day, I did the whole day on this. It all changed when Jesus came. If you want to do a study of how Jesus elevated women in that culture who were still property, treated like dogs and animals, he elevates women to equal status with men. That was aghast in that culture. Again, that's a whole nother sermon. I don't have time to get into it. But I've heard movie stars and some women say, I'll never become a Christian because of what Jesus did to women. And I would love 5 minutes with them. I say, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about. You look at what Jesus did to women. He elevated to a place that's unbelievable. And it should be that way now in the church. Am I right, women? Equal status, it's unbelievable what happened. So I'm getting a little worked up, but that's a whole other thing. So Elkanah has two wives, one because he needs children. It's very valued at that time. And so what happens is you go back to the story and it says, year after year, this man, the husband, Elkanah, Hannah's husband, went up from his town to worship and sacrifice the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the two evil sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. Again, a little backstory. Eli's the high priest. He has two sons. They're corrupt. I mean, really, really corrupt. I don't even want to say it's R-rated what they did with women at the temple. You get it? They were bad men, all right? Eli's the priest. He has two corrupt sons. And so he's there at the thing. He says, whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he gave a double portion because he loved her and the Lord had closed her womb. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival, guess who her rival is? The other wife, Peninnah. Her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. So they go to church, basically back in the day, and what happens? The woman who's able to have children is making fun of Hannah who can't have children. Imagine this. Imagine going to church on Sunday, and every time you go there, you get provoked by somebody at church. Here it's the other wife. But can you imagine pulling into Kensington on Sunday, and you get out of your car, and somebody beside you goes, what a loser car. That's what you drive. Loser. Can you imagine that? How would you feel? Not very good. You start walking up to the front door, and our ushers are there going, that's what you're wearing to church? That's all the money you make? Wow, that doesn't happen ever, right? Please tell me that never happens in our parking lot. But here's what I think happens at church. We do feel provoked at times unintentionally. Think about this. I think people go to church, and often this is what plays in our head. Single people look at married people and think, I want to be married, and they feel provoked. Like churches, all you do is talk about marriage, and they feel that at church. Or married people look at another marriage, you ever done this, and think, I want that marriage. Actually, here's what you do. I want that husband. He looks like he actually treats his wife with care. Or I want that wife. It happens at church all the time. It's unintentional, but we do that, and it's all wrong. But we do that. But here's what's happened. Hannah is being provoked in such a way by this other wife. Did you notice that it says she wept and would not eat? In other words, it really hurt her. Now, I've only got two thoughts for moms today, and it's not going to just be for moms. Moms, I want to speak to you But guys and daughters and sons, listen, because God's speaking to all of us in this. But I just had two thoughts, and the first one was this, and it's about what you see. You realize that you can't really see this on Hannah, but when they get to church, she starts to weep, and she won't even eat, and you're like, oh my gosh, she's carrying something that I didn't know was that deep. And so here's one of the first thoughts. Moms carry a burden we can't see. And I know men, we do this as well, but I think moms really are carrying things we can't see, burdens and anxieties and stress that's a part of being a mom that many of us can't see. In fact, for each one of these, I have another way to say it. It just came to me yesterday. I thought, here's another way to say it. Don't judge a mom until you've walked a mile in her heels, all right? I think that's funny. Anyway, don't judge a mom until you've walked a little bit. I mean, even being a grandparent out there like that, it's like, oh my goodness, this is hard. And it's real easy not to understand the burdens, the weight that women carry. And here's the interesting thing. When you understand that culture, you start to begin, and we don't have appreciation for this, you start to begin to understand Hannah's burden that she was carrying. See, in that culture, if you're a woman and you're a wife, you are valued for one thing. Guess what it is? Having children. That's why men married you. You are to give them children. Children were highly, highly valued in that culture. We live in a culture now with people like, I'm not even gonna have kids. In that culture, not an option. You marry so that you can continue a legacy. It was everything to them. In fact, I was doing some study and I just wrote down some of the things they said. Your economic and social status was directly related to how many children you had. This was the culture. Children were your labor force. Children, the more children you had, the better you were off financially. The fewer children you had, the less you had financially. Children were your retirement. There was no safety net. Childless couples faced the possibility of starvation in old age without children. Having children was a matter of life and death. And also, there was this belief that God was going to bring his promise through the nation of Israel. And so you were commanded by God, have children, many children, so you can build an army to take the promise through. So that was how a woman was valued. So Hannah is feeling that burden. Here's a simple way to say it. Women in that culture, if you had children, you were a hero. If you didn't have children, you were a zero. So here's Hannah, can't get pregnant. Here's Peninnah, she's a hero. And she's making fun of Hannah. And I thought, man, so many women carry burdens, maybe not that burden, but other burdens that we can't see, but they carry them every second, every day. Am I right, women? Every day. I don't know if you were here during the Vertical Marriage series, but one of the chapters in our Vertical Marriage book is called, I like this title, it almost didn't get through to the publisher, but they okayed it, Sex in the Chapel. Anybody remember that chapter? It's chapter 12, if you want to go home and read it. Anyway, and it doesn't mean Ann and I had sex in the chapel at Troy campus, okay? People are like, what? It was a play on words, because some of you know I was speaking to the Lions at chapel on my birthday, and Ann handed me this note, and it was about, it was a sort of interesting little birthday gift. Somehow that came out of my mouth on the Today Show. Don't ask me how, if you saw the Today Show. How did I end up in that story? It's a whole other thing. But here's the thing. If you heard Ann and I talk about sex, one of the things Ann tries to do when we speak at marriage conferences around the country, just did this in Minneapolis, is we try to help men and women understand how women view things differently. And she does this illustration. You saw it in that video, or if we were here live, I don't remember where we were that weekend, where she brings luggage on stage. Do you remember? Her whole point is that when I'm coming up to the bedroom, and and this could be any area of your life, Dave is just sitting there. He's got one thing on his mind, because men are compartmentalized. But I am a woman, so everything's connected. You guys know what I'm saying? And so she picks up these bags like, I have, I got to get the kids ready for school tomorrow. Oh, my mom, how's she doing? And we got the calendar. I got to do the laundry. And she throws all these pieces of luggage on her. And she comes walking into the bedroom like, this is what's going on in a woman's brain. And she lays down on the bed. There's luggage all over her. Said, this is how women think. When she does this around the country, almost everywhere we go, women start standing up and clapping at that point. Because they're like, yes, that's my life. And I'm always like, really? Every woman here is like, yeah, dude. That's what women do. They carry burdens. You don't see them like luggage. She's trying to illustrate that, but that's all in your wife, in your mom, in your girlfriend, in your daughter right now. Am I right, ladies? And I'm not saying men don't carry this, but women carry it in a unique way that's really, really heavy. And that's what I'm saying. Moms carry burdens we can't see. And it's real easy for us to think, oh, that's no big deal. It's a big deal. I was looking this week at salary.com. You ever gone to that website? It tells you different salaries of different positions. They just updated last year what they think moms should be paid. Stay-at-home moms. It's really interesting what they said. It just went up 5,000 for last year. It says, according to the survey, the typical stay-at-home mom, and I know many moms work, but this would be a mom that stays home, says a typical stay-at-home mom works 97 hours a week. 13.2 hours as a daycare teacher, 3.9 hours as a household CEO, 7.6 hours as a psychologist, 14 hours as a chef, 15 hours as a housekeeper, 6 hours doing laundry, 9 hours as a PC or Mac operator, 10 hours as a facilities manager, 8 hours as a janitor, 7.8 hours driving the family minivan, right? And then it says the list for modern moms is even longer. It includes lists like buyer, athletic trainer, photographer, social media marketing manager, academic advisor, tailor, recreational therapist, coach, tax accountant, judge, public school teacher, teacher, vocational, groundskeeper, interior design, logistics, analyst, nutritionist, plumber, staff, and have sex with your husband once in a while. There it is. That's what a mom's carrying all the time, right? And we got single moms out there. My mom did that without a dad. It's just crazy. You know what they said the salary should be? In 2018, they said the salary for a mom staying at home should be $162,581. Does that sound about right? Yeah, all the women are clapping right now. Like, I'll take that job anytime. But I thought, man, oh man, that's the kind of stuff moms carry around all the time. And we men and we kids, we don't even understand it. That is the weight. When they lay their head down at night, it isn't just physical exhaustion, right, ladies? It's everything. It's always there. I remember I was probably 13 or 14 years old, and, I was raised by a single mom, and her bedroom was just 2 steps from my bedroom. We had a little house, really no money. I remember crawling into bed, 13, 14 years old, and I forgot to say goodnight to my mom. And so I got up out of bed, and I just stepped, across the hall and looked into her room and didn't know if she was asleep yet, and I was going to say goodnight. And I looked in, and she's on her knees, and she's crying and praying. And I didn't hear most of the prayer, but I heard enough to know she's praying about me. And it just hit me. I can remember looking at her going, that's something she's carrying I never thought about. I know why she's praying about me. I was making some really bad decisions with alcohol, with girls. I was headed a bad place. Actually ended up in jail a year later. And she was on her knees begging God for me. And I thought, I had no idea that's the kind of weight my mom carries. I should have cleaned up my act right then. But it was like, I know now every woman in this room carries that kind of weight. Some of you aren't even moms, but the way God's made you, you carry burdens. And I'm not saying we men don't as well. We do too, but it's uniquely different for a woman. And I'm hoping we men and children in the room understand she's carrying burdens you don't even understand. Step back, especially today, and go, Mom, wow. I don't even know the number of times you prayed for me. I don't know the number of times you cried. I don't know the number of times you couldn't eat because you were so worried. But today I just got a little glimpse to go, I can imagine what it is like for you. And so moms, I just want to honor you. That's what Hannah felt. She doesn't even have a child yet. And yet she's carrying all these burdens that nobody sees, except there's symptoms there that she's crying and won't eat. Now here's the amazing thing. The next verse is her husband trying to fix this. Guys, don't do this. Look at what he says. It says her husband, Elkanah, would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Guys, this dude is clueless. All right? I can see us doing the same thing. Like, look, you got me, man. I'm amazing. Who cares about kids? He doesn't get it. And I don't think we do either. That's why I want to pause for a moment and go, men and women. I don't need to say women. Men and sons, understand this. Your mom, your woman, your wife, your girlfriend, your daughters are carrying more burdens than you can imagine, and don't judge it until you've walked in those heels. All right, so here's what happens in this story. It's pretty amazing. Jump down to verse 9. It says, once they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now, that should be bolded because it's like, this is not a woman standing up at a table. This is a spiritual defining moment in her life. You're going to see here what this means. But it isn't just, no, she's making a decision by standing up, and watch what happens. It says, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. So this is a prayer that's visceral from her heart. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly, and she made a vow saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. Now, what's going on here? I believe, as you study the story, she's made a decision that I'm going to ask God, but I'm not asking God to give me a son for me. I'm going to ask him to give me a son for his kingdom. Because what she says is, Lord Almighty. What's that mean? She is submitting to the powerful God of the universe, and she makes a deal with him. You may think it's like a foxhole prayer. If you give me this, I'll give you that. You give me $1 million, I'll give you $10 back, right? It's not that. It's like, she's not doing that. She's saying, your plan is bigger than mine, so if you give me a son, I'll give him back to you. Lord Almighty, I'm asking you for this. And notice what she says. No razor will touch his head. Do you know what that means? Here's what it means. The priest at that time came from the Levites. You had to be a Levite to be a priest unless there was a vow made. It was called a Nazirite vow that you would make to never drink alcohol and never cut your hair and other things. You could be a Nazirite who could be grafted in to be a priest. When she says no razor ever touch his head, she's saying I'll completely surrender him to your work and I won't even raise him. This son is not for her. She is changing her perspective to say, I'm asking you to give me a son for you and for your promise to go forward through your lineage, and I know I'm part of that. It's an amazing prayer. And I just thought this, as she's praying that, here's my second thought for moms here. First one is, you carry burdens we can't see. Here's the second one I think moms and all of us need to be reminded of, and that's this. Your burdens are God's burdens. I think, mom's burden is God's burden. Or here's a better way to say it, I think. If it matters to you, it matters to God. Now, this is true for men as well, but especially moms. You got to understand this. If it matters to you, do what Hannah did. She realized, Lord Almighty, it matters to him. There's a part of us that thinks God's so big and so important and doing so many things. My little life and my little child isn't that important. No, you're misunderstanding something. It is that important to God. If it matters to you, his child, his daughter, it matters to him. I wrote down this. Hannah, you get a glimpse into her theology. Here's what she believed. She believed that the broken heart of a childless woman mattered to God. You find that out in her prayer. She believed the broken heart of a childless woman mattered to God. She believed that the Lord of hosts who rules over the nations cares about her. And by the way, about you as well. And she believed that he is infinitely great, but also infinitely tender. Here's what we got to remember today, and moms especially. God sees you. God cares about you. God loves you. God is with you. Man, you're carrying a burden, maybe even today, that's caused you to struggle even to eat, and it's caused you tears at night, or God sees you and is with you. And I think it's easy for us to think he's so big and he's so distant, he doesn't really see me. Yes, he does. I don't know how. I don't. How can God see each one of all the billions of people? But he does, because he's not like us, finite. He's infinite. Somehow, he's involved in your life, even though you don't see it or feel it, and your prayers aren't getting answered. He's still with you, even right now. He just is. And so I want you to know that. If it matters to you, it matters to him, so ask him about it. Hannah kept praying and praying. Eli thought she was drunk. He later says, what are you mumbling over there? She goes, I'm asking God to give me a son so I can hand him to you and you can raise him. Here's the amazing thing. We don't know all that God's doing every day, but he's always up to something, because if it matters to you, it matters to him. Some of you know, maybe, I don't remember the year, 10, 12 years ago, I went in for back surgery. Some of you were around here at the time, and you heard my journey. But I had a couple discs, L4, L5, S5, L4, 5, S1, pushing on my sciatic so bad I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand. I was on the sideline with the Lions at the time, and I was taking Vicodin. It was just ridiculous. I'd go in and get some relief. I'd come back. I did everything you could do. I had people come up to me every week and praying for healing and telling me everything I should do to my back, and it never went away. And it'd come for 6 weeks, 6 months, go away. I went 5 years. I could barely walk, couldn't sit. It got so bad, it was just crazy. So I go to the doctor a couple times, and finally scheduled surgery, but it was like 6 weeks away. And then my back got better. But I'd done this for so many years, I'm like, I don't care if I feel great. I'm going in, I'm getting those discs off my sciatica. I'm finally going to get free. So I go in for the surgery. Long story short, I go in for the surgery. I'm feeling perfect at this moment, but I don't care. I'm still getting, it's going to come back, so let's do it. Well, the nurse sees me. I'm the first one in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning. Sue comes in and goes, wow, you look great. I'm jumping around, laying on the thing. She goes, wow, you look great. What are you doing here? I'm like, I've got to do this. I know it's going to come back. Let's do this. Even though I was tense because I was like, I feel so good. The doc comes in. I'm IV'd up. We're rolling down to the OR. And he finally shows up and he goes, hey, Sue said you're feeling great. He said, stop for a minute. We're in the hallway. He goes, how good are you feeling? I go, Doc, I feel perfect. He goes, tell me what you've been doing. I said, I played full court basketball 2 days ago, and I shoveled wet, heavy snow yesterday, like this, trying to get it to come back. I wanted it to come back because I'm coming here for surgery. He goes, whoa. He goes, let's do a test. So he did this test he did 6 weeks before where you sit on the other side and he pushes on each leg. And when you don't have any power in your sciatica, your leg just goes down because there's no current there. And 6 weeks ago, he pushed my leg and went right down. Right then, he goes, and they were equal. I'll never forget this. He takes his gloves off and he goes, go home. I go, what? He goes, you're healed. I can't explain it, but I'm not going in there and making it worse. You're perfect. Go home. I'm like, oh my gosh, New Testament miracle. I was like, oh, this is the greatest day of my life. I couldn't believe it. I come walking out, and my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, look, it's done. It's already done. Look at me. No, I'm like, he's sending me home. He says I'm healed. So we get in the car, and I was going to be out of work for months, this whole thing, and I call up Clint Dupin and his wife, Michael. I said, meet me at the original Pancake House on Woodward. We're celebrating, because that's where I want to go to celebrate. So we go there, right? And I'm telling him, like, you can't believe this. I'm like, healed. The doctor's got to do it. It's unbelievable. I've never had a miracle like this in my life. Maybe my hair's going to grow back. So anyway, we're sitting there. And here's what happens. In walks in an NBA former Piston, I won't say his name, that you would know if you saw him. And I knew his face often, and we're in the very back of the restaurant. And as he walks in, I look over and I go, oh, that's so-and-so. And he waves at me. I'm in the very back. I don't know this guy. I've seen him play, but I don't know him. So I look behind me like, who's he waving at? There's a wall here. So I'm like, and they're like, you know him? I go, no, I don't think he knows. He must think I'm somebody else. So we have our meal, and we're walking out, and he and his wife are sitting in a little booth by the front door. So I walk up just to be nice because he acknowledged me, and I go, hey, do we know each other? He goes, you're my pastor. I go, really? He goes, yeah, I go to Kensington, Rochester Hills, was at Adams High School at the time. I go, I've never once seen you. He's big, very tall. He goes, I sit in video overflow. I'm too big to sit in the auditorium, and I sort of want to get in and out because I don't want a lot of people. They just come up and so I just sit in video overflow. I've left. You probably never see me there. And I'm like, wow. Oh, yeah, my name's Dave. And he goes, yeah, I know. Now listen to this. He goes, I can't believe you're here right now. He knows none of this back thing. And I go, yeah, I can't either. And he tells me why, and his wife's in tears. I go, what's going on? He goes, my wife and I are considering divorce. We're really hurting. We're driving around. And we're about to end this thing. And we both said, God, you need to give us a sign. If you want to stay together, give us a sign. And he looks at me and he goes, you're the sign. Now, here's what's interesting about that. I know his background. He comes from a church in his growing up years that traditionally they believe the pastor represents the presence of God. They honor pastors highly. We should pick up that little tradition, right? But I knew what he meant by that. When he saw his pastor, it meant a lot more than if you would see me. To him, it was like, there's the sign. And that was 10 or 11 years ago. They're still together. And here's the amazing thing. He didn't know any of this. I'm supposed to be under a knife at that very second. And yet I'm there. And I thought the healing was for me. I don't think it was. Because a year later, I went under the knife. Because it all came back. And that doctor fixed me. And God healed me through medical surgery, which is beautiful. God can do heal you many different ways. He chose to use Dr. Richard Eastman, one of the best in the Midwest, and I've been fine ever since. But it was a year later I was there. But that day, I was sent home, and I thought it was for me, and I was like, if it matters to you, it matters to God. And that's what this NBA player realized that day. God's with us. He said, we're going to get in the car and realize God's right here. We thought he had abandoned us, but he's right here. And moms, I got to just be honest with you. God is with you. Sometimes there's miraculous moments like that in your life. Often there aren't, but he's still with you. He sees you. He cares. If it matters to you, keep asking him about it. Keep lifting it up to him like Hannah did. He's with you. Now, I can't guarantee he's going to do what he did for Hannah. You know the rest of the story? She had a son. And she nursed him for a couple years. I'll read it to you. Then around probably age 3, she did what she said. Isn't it interesting? You know, you pray this prayer. When it happens, you're going to renege or you're going to, look at this. Verse 24 says, after he was weaned, she took the boy with her, young as he was, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh. When the bull had been sacrificed, they brought the boy to Eli. And she said to him, pardon me, my Lord, as surely as you live, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life he will be given over to the Lord. And he worshiped the Lord there. She really did ask God for a son to extend the kingdom of God. She gave him to Eli. By the way, that's surrender to a man who's not a very good father. And yet, she let that guy raise one of the greatest prophets you've ever heard about. Samuel, the one who anointed King David. Amazing man of God, was birthed to Hannah. And the rest of the story, she had other children after that. But the story is this for moms. Moms, please hear today. You carry burdens nobody else sees. God sees. And if it matters to you, it matters to him. And he sees you, and he loves you, and he cares for you. And he wants you to know today, you're not alone. And he's asking you, will you surrender? And this is to all of us. Your life, your children, to me. He's asking you that. And it's hard to do as a dad. And I've had to do it with 3 sons and daughter-in-laws and now grandchildren. It's not easy to do. But I tell you what, there's one who loves your children more than you do. And it's okay. Let them go. Let them go. You know, when I was a young dad, I was sort of mentored on the radio by a guy named James Dobson called Focus on the Family. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Listen to the radio and now podcasts. And, you know, it's interesting. Back a couple months ago, Ann and I got to go to the Focus on the Family studio and be interviewed by James's successor, Jim Daly, about our vertical marriage book. And I thought, I'm sitting in the studio where my life was transformed by the programs there. And now Ann and I are doing radio for Family Life, which is much like Focus on the Family. It's on 1,300 stations a day, Monday through Friday, every week. It's just amazing that God's put us in a place now that we get to influence young dads. And if you're not listening to that show, you don't have to listen to radio. Just get the Family Life app and listen to the podcast every day. We interviewed Gary Chapman this week. He's the guy that wrote 5 love languages. He only sold 50 million books of those. It's unbelievable, the wisdom that he brought to our thing. But here's the thing. I remember listening to James Dobson when I was having my first son. And James Dobson said this. He says, I fast 1 day a week for my children. I don't eat 1 day a week, and I just pray all day. I started fasting 33 years ago, 1 day a week, usually Fridays, as CJ was born, my oldest, and Austin and Cody. Nobody knew it, but all day Friday, as hunger pangs come, I pray. And I was praying for their wives when their wives weren't born yet. Didn't know their name, didn't know who they were, but I was praying for these little girls that they'd be women of God. They'd be making right choices with their bodies as they become teenage girls. All these kinds of things, every Friday for 33 years. Still doing it. Can you imagine what it was like for me when I married my 3 sons as the pastor at the wedding, but also the father? I'll never forget. Here's CJ standing here, and I look over at his fiance, his bride that day, Robin. They're now married almost 10 years. And she doesn't know this. I've been praying for her before she was born. And now I'm getting to watch. Then Austin and Kendall. And then Cody and Jenna. What was I doing? I was surrendering the future to a God that cared more about their future and their legacy and my legacy than I even did. And I'll tell you what, when you surrender everything, you give them your life, you give them your children, you give them your talents, you give them your gifts, you even give them your treasure. And so as I wrap up, we're going to take the offering. Why? Because that's what you do. When you surrender to Jesus, it isn't just, and it's never easy, because it's like, I got to trust a God I can't see. Oh yeah, you can see him. He's at work right now. So the usher's going to pass a pouch right now throughout the room. I'm going to wrap up with just a couple action steps, and then we're going to listen to a song that's beautiful, and I'm going to encourage you to sing that song, even though you never heard it, about how much you are loved by God. But I just say this about the offering. Most of our people give that way. If you're brand new here today and you're like, man, I believe in the mission of this place, I want to start giving, there's the way to do it. It's very easy to do. We have new people step up every week to do that. And I just want to say thank you for all your giving. But moms, let me end with this, just so you know this, because I think God is saying this to you, and this is for everybody as well. But here's the thing. You are loved by God. Please don't walk out of here today thinking you're not loved by God. Because here's what we do. We get our eyes on our kids or our husband or our life, and we feel like we're not loved. Get your eyes up and realize you are loved by God. The song we're going to do in a second, we've never even done it here before. It's brand new. And listen to these words. There's a chorus here. I'm going to encourage you, man, when you hear it a couple times, stand up and sing this, because here's the word. There is no disappointment in your eyes. This is God's eyes toward us. There is no shame. There is only pride. I am loved. Father, I am loved by you. There is no distance in your embrace. Over and over again, you say, I am loved. Father, I am loved by you. So first thought, moms, is this. You are loved. And I hope you walk out of here feeling loved. Second thought is this. You're not alone. I know you can feel alone. You're not alone. Why? God is with you, but I'll tell you, how does God mostly show you that you're not alone? Do you know how? Through other people, through the community of God around you. And women, some of you women have never gotten connected to any women here. I'm telling you, there's an opportunity for you starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday next weekend. We call it a women's retreat. We call it Smash. That doesn't mean women go there and get smashed. It means they go there and they smash paradigms of what women are supposed to be in 48 hours. They talk about where God has placed them. Part of it's being a mom, but being a woman. You got to get there. If you haven't signed up for it yet, there's still room. Sign up today. There's a table in the lobby. And guys, husbands, boyfriends, send your girl there. Send your wife there. I'm not kidding. They will come back transformed. And some of you are going to come back with community. And you've never found it yet. You will come back with some girls that are your friends that will help you realize you're not alone. And then the last thought is just this simple. Take your eyes up. As a mom, it's really easy to find your identity from your children. Don't do that. Every parent does it. Don't do that. Your identity comes from him. In our book, we call it Go Vertical. Go Vertical. We're going to go vertical right now in a song. Why are we doing that? We want to get our eyes up here and say, am I loved? Yes. I am loved. Father, I am loved by you. That's the truth you want to walk out of here with today. So listen to the words of the song at the beginning, but as you hear it and learn it, feel free, if you want, to stand up and worship God, to thank him that he indeed sees you, knows you, cares for you, and loves you.
Just as I am, you welcome me. With open arms, how can this be? My guilt is undone, my past is untethered. I leave it behind and run to my Father. There is no disappointment in your eyes. There is no shame, there is only pride. I am loved, Father, I'm loved by you. My fear is gone, I've been set free. There's nothing to hide, there's nothing to measure. 'Cause I am your child, all that matters. 'Cause there is no disappointment in your eyes. There is no shame, there is only pride. I am loved, Father, I'm loved by you. There is no distance in your embrace. Over and over again you say, I am loved, Father, I'm loved by you. For I am loved, Father, I'm loved by you. You are changing everything. You are changing everything. I believe it, I receive it. You are changing everything. You are changing everything. You are changing everything. I believe it, I receive it. You are changing everything. You are changing everything. You are changing everything. I believe it, I receive it. You are changing everything. I believe it, I receive it. You are changing everything. Oh, you There is no disappointment in your eyes. There is no shame, there is only pride. I am loved, Father, I'm loved by you. There is no distance in your embrace. Over and over again you say, I am loved, Father, I'm loved by you. For I am loved, Father, I'm loved by you. Oh, I am loved, Father, I'm loved by you. Jesus, I pray that everybody in this room would believe that. That all the moms in this place would know that they're loved by you. I just think about my wife today, man, and I'm so grateful for the woman that she is. And I know there's so many hurting people out there. And that's my hope today, is that we all know, walking out of this place, that, man, we are loved by a God who's right here in our midst. It's in your name we pray, amen. You guys can have a seat really quick. Got a couple announcements for you, and then we'll get you right out of here.
We are loved. We are loved by God, and He'd do anything for us. And one of my favorite parts about the song we just sang, where it talks about surrendering. And we surrender, we give to him our lives, we give to him our desires, our schedules. And what happens when we give that up is we get even more than we gave in return. And so I have a couple of announcements for you guys. The first one is talking about changing. We have a couple of changes that are coming up for Edge and Breakaway. So this year, for the first time, we are keeping Edge and Breakaway going all summer long. That's right. It's pretty cool, right? We're going to have stuff for them every week. And by the way, if you have a 5th grader that's going into 6th grade, just know at June 9th, they graduate. So after the Sunday morning services that night, Breakaway starts for them. And so with that, we have a couple of things happening. One of the big things to know, even though summer's going to look different, which you'll get an email about that if you haven't already, one of the most important things to their summer event you could use to help kickstart your students' faith is by signing them up to go on the mission trip, which we're calling it the Student Surf Camp. We're going down to Cincinnati. We have 2 different weeks. We have a week for middle school, so entering 6th grade through 8th grade, that's June 23rd through 28th, and then entering 9th grade and up is the June 16th through the 21st. And I know there's a little bit of weird schedules going on with Lake Orion, so if you're kind of nervous about that, come talk to me because we have a couple people that have found a little way around that. So anyway, so we would love to have you guys go. Here's some of the things that are going on that week. So we're going to partner up with all the other campuses, and we're going with a program called Group. And these are some of the programs that you guys are going to, if you go, you're going to volunteer at. There's a sports camp, there's an after-school program, a ballet company, an elderly home, and then also a couple of different outreach organizations in Cincinnati. And we all know Ohio needs help, right? That's why we're going. They need Jesus too. They really need Jesus down there. So come join us. This could be one of the greatest things you ever send your student on. I know my life changed in my transition between middle school and high school because of a mission trip that my mom signed me up, kicking and dragging my feet to go, and it was such a great experience. So if you want information, you can look on our app, or you can go on our website, kensingtonchurch.org/go, or definitely see me in the lobby. I'll be out right by our tables. We have a TV out there. Come get one of these from me. Come see us, come meet us, come get one of these. And then also we have an opportunity coming up for you as an entire family with Hope Water Project. Let's check this out.
Hey Kensington community, it's Heather here with Hope Water Project. We are so excited to announce that this year is our 5th annual Hope Water Project 5K event. What a great opportunity for a community of people on mission to come together to provide clean water to our brothers and sisters in Kenya. This event is for all ages, all athletic abilities. We invite all of you to join us. You know, last year, with our 500 registered participants, our numerous corporate sponsors, and our awesome fundraising community, we raised enough money to build 2 wells in Kenya. That is clean water for up to 4,000 people. And that clean water helps to restore health, provide education, and a future for our friends. So, grab your sneakers, grab your family, invite your neighbors, invite everyone. We would love to see an even bigger event this year, providing more opportunity to bring clean water to our friends in Western Kenya.
Over the last decade, we've raised about $4 million so far to build wells in Africa, which is really awesome. So come be a part of it. It's a great event. I've been there before. My wife and I are going, and we're going to be sweating it out along everybody else. So come join us. If you want info, you can find that at the hub. And again, if you want to send your kids on a mission trip, or students, you want to go, drag your parents over to the TV. Come get this from me. Have a great week and enjoy celebrating your mama today, okay?